Hey young friends, Dr. Bill here. I'm so glad that you've joined me today as we continue talking about the life and ministry of Jesus as a part of our Big Names in the Bible series. Last week, you may recall, we talked about Jesus' temptation. As soon as Jesus was baptized, he went into the wilderness and was tempted. The upshot of that experience was that Jesus knew who he was, but he had to figure out how he was going to do his work. And if you'll recall, we summed up all the temptations this way in the fact that Jesus was tempted to do something good the wrong way. He was tempted to take a shortcut in his approach to his work and his ministry. Well, today we're going to talk about Jesus calling his disciples. Now, Matthew and Mark tell us that immediately after the temptation, the first thing Jesus did was to find some followers to be his friends. As the Gospels tell us, one day Jesus was walking beside the Sea of Galilee, and he encountered Simon and Andrew. They were fishermen, and Jesus said to them, "Hey, come follow me, and I will make you fish for people." Well, they got up and they immediately followed Jesus. And then it says that they went a little further down the seashore, and Jesus encountered two more fishermen, Simon and Andrew. They were in their boats and they were mending their nets. And Jesus called them and said, "Hey, come follow me." And that's exactly what they did. So right at the outset of Jesus' ministry, he began by calling 4 friends to be with him. There's several lessons that I think are very, very important for us as we think about Jesus doing this. The first is an insight into Jesus himself. In calling his disciples, Jesus realized he couldn't do his work all by himself. He couldn't be everywhere at once. If he was going to have the impact that he wanted to have, he would have to have friends who could extend his work, who could go about doing the same sort of things that he did. And that's why he called his friends. He, in essence, was saying, if I'm going to get this done, I need help. And that's a valuable lesson for us. The truth is, we need other people. We can't do everything we'd like to do or accomplish all that we'd like to accomplish without the help of friends and neighbors. Jesus' work was important, and he called friends. Now, our work doesn't measure up to his, but nonetheless, it's important for us to realize that we just can't do life all by ourselves. The second thing I'd call your attention to is that in this call of his disciples, Jesus in essence said, "I'm not calling you to do something radically different. I'm calling you so that I can take who you are and the skills that you have and enable you to channel them in another direction." So, for example, with Simon and Andrew, the Gospels are clear, they were fishermen, and Jesus says, "Hey, come, I will make you fish for people." In other words, you already have a skill set. You already have some understanding about what it means to attract and draw fish. Well, let's transform that. Let's take those same skills and work on them so that you can attract and transform other people into being my disciples. In other words, Jesus wanted to take who they were and what they already possessed and said, "Hey, come use it in my service." The same is true with James and John. Now, Jesus didn't say to them, "Hey, come and I'll help you fish for people." But I have a feeling that there's a clue there that helps us understand something of their mission. The gospel writers tell us that when Jesus called, they were mending their nets. They were repairing them. And I think Jesus had in mind for these two, "Hey, come and follow me, and I will enable you to mend people. I'll enable you to heal people. and fix them where they are broken. That's an important part of their call. Well, you see, Jesus doesn't say, hey, I'm going to start entirely over with you. I'm not going to erase everything that you are and make you into something entirely different. No, Jesus says, I want to take what you possess. I want to take what you already know, and I want you to channel that into the work of the kingdom. Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. And then, in all of the accounts here with Simon and Andrew and James and John, the gospel writers make it very clear that this was a costly decision on their part. They had to leave their work behind. They had to leave their family, their friends, and their assets behind. In other words, if they were going to follow Jesus completely, they couldn't keep doing everything else that they were doing. This is a lifelong lesson. Usually, if we want to achieve something big, something important, we usually have to turn loose of something else in order to make it happen. So it is that you're in school. And you may or may not like school, but the truth is, if you're going to accomplish something in your life, you have to learn some things. And that means you have to let go of your desire to say, man, I want it to always be vacation time. I always want it to be holiday time. No, we have to embrace school so that we can learn and become what we want to be. I'll give you another example. I work real hard trying to keep myself healthy. And I realize that if I'm going to do that, that means that I have to do some things. I have to let go of some things so that I can do that. I try to exercise, and so that means that I can't just always sit on the couch and be a couch potato. I want to watch my weight, and that means that I have to say no to some foods I'd really like to eat. So in order to become something, I usually have to let go of something else. And that's what these disciples did. In order to follow Jesus, they let go of some very significant things. And then the final note is this. The Gospels tell us that they did this immediately. When Jesus called, they responded. They didn't wait. They just jumped in with both feet. I find that interesting because lots of times you and I think that we have to sit down and mull over the pros and cons of a potential decision. We have to write out what we think are the good things or the bad things. We have to say, hey, this will work or this won't work. And sometimes we can overthink things. When God calls, the response He wants is for us to say yes. Not to wait, not to say, hey, hold on, I've got to take care of this or that, or I need to do this or thus. Jesus wants us to follow immediately. When He calls, He wants us to follow, not tomorrow or the day after, but right now. Well, that'll do it for today's lesson. I hope it's helpful to you, and you know that if you have any questions, you can give me a call, send me a text or an email. I'll be glad to respond. Just a note, I'll be on vacation next week, so there won't be a lesson for you. But I'll see you the following week. In the meantime, I wish you well and pray God's blessings on you and your family. Take care. Bye-bye.